Okay, so today we're looking at 3.3 estimating square roots. So our student outcome for today is 1, I can estimate the square root of a number that is not a perfect square. And 2, I can identify a number with a square root that is between two given numbers. So let's take a look at our first. So let's start it out here. So for this lesson, we're looking at square roots that may not be whole numbers. So what I mean by that is that the roots here, okay, like easy is 2, 3, 4, they're all whole numbers, okay? For this lesson, we're going to be looking at ones that aren't whole numbers. So you could have, square root is 3.4. Anything with decimal in it, 6.7, anything like that. But remember today, okay, the key word for today is estimating. I'm not looking for the exact calculation. We're looking at how to kind of estimate how we can get there and get close. So it says here, if you look at a number line like this, you can see all the roots. I would recommend right now writing this entire number line out for yourselves, okay? This will make life very easy for you for this lesson and future lessons in this unit, okay? And all this line means is that the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. 16 is 4, and so on. It just kind of helps you out have a nice visual. So my first question to you is, using this number line here, can you estimate the square of the middle number? So what number would go in between here? It's exactly in between, okay? So what we're going to do really is look, okay, we have 36 and 49. So we know the number has to be in between 36 and 49. How do we find that number? We have to figure out how many numbers are in between. So if we were to count 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and so on, we'd find that there are 13 numbers in between them, okay? Because we're looking for the exact center here, that'd be halfway between this number. So we can ask ourselves, what is 13 divided by 2? And the answer to that is 6.5. So to figure out what the middle number would be right here, we just add or subtract that from 49 or 36. I'm going to add it. Equals 42.5. So our number in here would be 42.5. Not a whole number, mind you, but that would work. You could also, count and then go up to figure it out or from there. This isn't the important part, though. The important part is just understanding how to use this number line. So let's move on. Okay, so we're looking at how to estimate a square root. So we're going to look at the example, what is the square root of 17? So to figure this out, what it's saying is step 1 is find the perfect squares on either side of the number. So the first thing I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to draw myself a little mini number line, okay? Right there. So I'm looking, where does 17 fall on the square numbers? Well, we're going to go past 1, it's bigger than this, bigger than 4, bigger than 9, 16, and it's smaller than 25. So it's going to fit in right in between these numbers. So it says find the perfect squares on either side of that number. Well, 16 is before it, 25 is right after it. So what I'm going to do is draw 16 here on my little mini number line, and 25 here on my number line as well. Then I'm going to place what I'm looking for, which is the square root of 17. So I know it's probably pretty close to 16, so I'm going to put it right about here. Okay? Now, step 2, it says calculate the square roots of the two perfect squares. Well, that means we're talking about these guys, 16 and 25. So when I look at my chart, square root of 16 is 4. So I can write that right here. And the square root of 25 is 5. So I'm going to write that right here. Now, it says step 3, estimate the root based on where the whole number is located between the two perfect squares. Well, I'm going to help myself out. I'm just going to draw a little middle note. And when we ask ourselves, what would the middle be? Well, half between 4 and 5 would be 4.5, just so we have an idea, okay? So we know that 17, obviously, is far closer to 16 than it is 25. So we know automatically the square root of 17 is going to be 4.5 or less in here. So it's going to be either 4.1, 2, 3, or 4, okay? And really, when we look at 17, it's pretty close to 16. So if we were to say, you know what, it's probably about 4.1, because it's really close, we'd be about correct, okay? So the key things to remember for this, guys, is draw that mini number line like I have here, okay? Writing down your squares that are right on either side of your number that you're looking for. Drawing the square roots for those numbers. Making sure you have the middle place so you know kind of what you're dealing with. Because had 17 or had it been like 21, we probably know that it's going to be closer to 25, so it'll be on this side of the number. Okay, so this is key right here. So let's try, just in case you're confused, we'll try another one here. So for our second example, we've got estimate the square root for 7 meters squared. So following our stuff from before, step 1, we're going to draw ourselves that little number line. Okay? Step 1 says we have to find out where this fits in between for the squares. So when we look at it, we even had our number chart here, which I could do up here for you. We know we had 1, which was 1. We had 4, which was 2. 9, which was 3. And let's just go here, 16, 4. So where does 7 fall in between here? Well, it's bigger than 1. It's bigger than 4, but it's smaller than 9, so we know right away we're looking at this area to use because it fits in right in between here. So step 1 says write the squares down that are immediately following it and before it. So 4 is right before it, 9 is right after it. We got our middle area, and we know that 7, we're going to put it probably about here, just because we know it's a little bit closer to 9. Step 2 says find the roots for both your perfect squares, so that would be 2 for 4, 3 for 9. Because this is the exact middle, we know halfway between 2 and 3 is going to be 2.5. And the last question we ask ourselves, we're going to estimate based on where it is. We know that if we look at this, it's actually closer to 9 than it is to 4, because here we would have 5 and 6, and here we only have 8. So we know it's actually on this side of 2.5, so it's got to be higher, but it's not right at 9, so it's probably not going to be about 2.9. It's probably going to be, and I give you guys about a little leeway here, because it's not right beside 9, it's not going to be 2.9 or 2.8, right? And it's pretty close to the middle, so I'm saying it's going to be about 2.6 or 2.7. Okay? That's what I'm going to roll with. Okay? And that's fine. If you're 1 decimal off, I'm okay. If you're going too far off, then that's when you're going to lose marks. You just estimate based off where it is. So you say, okay, 7 is closer to 9. I know it's going to be past 2.5, and it'll be one of these numbers, right? 2.6, 2.7, and we're good because we are just estimating. Okay? Let's try the next example. Okay, this is the second part now. So this one's called finding a whole number that is a square between two numbers. So it's a little bit different than before. So for this, you're going to find the perfect squares of the numbers mentioned for step 1, then choose a whole number between the two perfect squares. So what I mean by that is, let's look at our example. It says identify a whole number that has a square root between 5 and 6. So we're looking for something that has a square root between 5 and 6. Okay, so what we're going to do really is find the squares of the numbers mentioned. So if I go my number line again, okay, my root here is 5, my other root is 6. It says find the squares. Well, 5 times 5 we know is 25, so that's its square. And 6 times 6 is 36. We got our square there. Now it says choose a whole number between the two perfect squares. So that's saying pick a number in between these numbers. So really, I could pick 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35. That was a horrible comma. 35. And those are all numbers that have a square root between 5 and 6, because 26 would be 5.1, 5.2, and so on, guys. And that's it for these. These are very, very simple, right? It's just finding a whole number, which are all right here, that have a square root between those two numbers. So very easy. Let's try the next example. So you try a couple more. So take a look at these, pause it, and then you can hit play when you're ready for the solution. Okay, so let's start with A. So 72. Okay, so we're going to do step 1 again. We're going to draw our little number line here. Okay, we're going to find the immediate squares on either side of the number. So we know that 81 is going to be the closest one after looking at our number line. We know that 64 is going to be the closest on this side of it afterwards as well. We're then going to find our middle marker right there. We're going to find the square roots of each number. So the square root of 64, as we know from our number line, is 8. Square root of 81 is 9. So now we know we're dealing with a square root between 8 and 9. We know halfway between 8 and 9 right here is going to be 8.5. And is 72 closer to 64 or 81? You know, that's kind of hard. It's kind of right in the middle, so we're going to put it right around here. And when we look at it, it's pretty close in the middle, because the difference between 64 and 72 is 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72 is 8. And the difference between, and actually I'm going to write this down here, Difference here is 8. And the difference between here and here, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, it's also 8. So we're going to estimate that the answer is actually going to be 8.5. Okay, let's try the second one here. Estimate the square root of 93. Well, draw our number line again. What squares fall immediately before it and after it? Well, looking at our number line, we know 100 will fall right after, and 81 will fall right before it. Find our square roots for these numbers. We have 10, square root of 100. Square root of 81 is 9. Now we're going to place our middle point, which is 9.5. We ask ourselves, 93 is closer to which number? Well, when we look at it, it's actually going to be closer to 100. So we're going to place it somewhere in here. And when we look at it, we say, okay, you know what? It's really not that close to 100 for it to be a 9.9 or 9.8, but it's not super close over here, so we know we can already get rid of this area. It's 9.5 or above. Since it's not that close, I can probably, estimate that 93, it's probably about a 9.6 or a 9.7 because it's not super close in here, so it's probably closer to the 9.5. So we'll go with 9.6. Remember, it's estimation, so if you can get within one decimal, I'm okay with that. And let's try our last one, 14. We'll draw our number line again. We're going to find the squares on either side of the number, so we know that 16 is before it. We know that 9 is after it. We find our square root, so square root of 9 is 3, square root of 16 is 4. We draw our middle marker again, which is 3.5. We ask ourselves, what's 14 closer to, 9 or 16? When we look at it, it's closer to 16, so we're going to put it on this side. So we know it's bigger than 3.5, but lower than 4. So now we have 4 decimals to play with here. So is it really close to 16? No. So it's probably not going to be 3.9, 3.8, but it's not super close to 9 either, so it's probably going to be, when we guesstimate, probably about 3.7, 3.6. Okay? And we know that because it has to be higher than this number because it's closer to 16, and it can't be bigger than 4. It's not 3.9 and 3.8 because that would be way too close to 16. Because it's a little bit away, we can probably guess that it's one of the two of 3.7 or 3.6. And that's how we get it. So let's try the last example. Last one. Find me a whole number with the square root between 11 and 12. So that was the second lesson we learned today. So pause it here and play it when you're ready. Okay, for this, all we have to do again, guys, we'll draw our number line. We're going to put 11 here and 12 here because they're roots. We have to find the perfect squares for each number. So the perfect square for 11 is 121. Perfect square for 12 is 144. And all we have to write down is any of the numbers in between here. So that would be like 121, 122, 23, 124, and so on. Okay? So it could be any one of these all the way up to 143. Okay? So really, our answer could be anything between 122 and 143 would be our answer. They would all have square roots like 11.1, 11.43, 11.6, 11.8, right? All those would have numbers in between there. And that's it. So, I hope this made sense for you guys. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. We'll look at it tomorrow, and have a good night.